Hey everybody, it's Mike McElroy here with Center Coast Realty. I've got some more updates for you about how the coronavirus is affecting the real estate market. Obviously, in these uncertain times, it's even more important to have as much information as possible so people can make decisions that are important to them about their homes. It's also, if I'm being perfectly honest, really helpful for me to have a good reason to shave and not wear the same clothes every single day. So killing two birds with one stone. Everybody wins here. So we're going to talk about today some of the updated numbers and how the changes to our daily lives are impacting the competitive landscape for buyers and sellers. And we're also going to check in on some disruptions to day-to-day businesses. We've been updating the blog, but it's been about a week since I updated these videos, and a lot has changed in terms of just some of the executive orders that have come out and how are those impacting real estate. So we're going to jump into all of that. Again, normally we have monthly numbers that come out, or Chicago Association of Realtors will release weekly numbers, but this situation is moving so quickly that we're just pulling the raw data straight from the MLS and kind of making our own figures here. So I want to start by talking about the number of homes that have gone under contract on kind of a daily basis since all of this started about 2.5 weeks ago. It's been going on longer than that, but it kind of got real 2.5 weeks ago. Contracts are the best way to figure out where a market is heading. They're the best representation of the demand in a certain marketplace. So what we're doing is we're pulling the number of contracts every day and then looking at just kind of a 7-day average, the average number of daily contracts. So in Chicago, the number of daily contracts on average peaked around 129, 130. That was the peak, but it was solidly in the 120. So about 120 homes were going under contract every day on average before the travel ban was announced. They peaked literally, I think, the day before the travel ban was announced. So 125 or so was kind of the average daily. As of Tuesday, today's Friday, as of Tuesday, which is probably the most recent day that I can really count on the data from the MLS, we're down to 84 on Tuesday. So that's a significant drop. It's down by about 33%. The other thing I want to look at in terms of demand is showings. So again, our pals over at ShowingTime are doing a great job of tracking this. ShowingTime is an app that a lot of realtors use to request showings throughout the country. So ShowingTime is tracking the number of requests. And you can click a link to this graph if you go to the blog post on our website. I think when I checked in with everybody last week, we were down to about the showings had decreased to a level that was similar to what we see in January, which is actually a pretty decent market. That has changed in the last week. We're much further down than that. So as of today, we're down to about we've seen about a 60% decrease in showings compared to the peak, which was actually, which was also right around when the travel ban was announced. So that's kind of interesting. We've seen contracts decrease by about 35%, and yet we've seen showings decrease by more like 60%. So what's going on there? Couple of theories. One is that showings have to happen before contracts. So it's possible that the showings are just giving us a further into the future look than the contracts number are. Another thing that could be happening, though, is that people are just being a lot more selective about which listings they actually see in person. We can still do in-person showings. We're going to talk about that next. But people could just be more selective about which listings they're actually going to see. And maybe that's part of why the number of showings has decreased. The other thing is, you know, like I said, this comes from ShowingTime. It's possible that for the moment, people are actually just not using that software quite as heavily as they used to. And the reason being, you know, some people want to actually talk to a buyer's agent on the phone before scheduling a showing and just say kind of, hey, how serious is your buyer? Are they pre-approved? They want to ask a bunch of questions to basically make sure that, you know, if there is going to be someone coming into their client's home, that it's worth it to not put too fine a point on it. So all of these things could be happening. I suspect it's a mix of all of the above. I think demand is down. I think that people are being more selective and seeing fewer listings before they put something under contract. And I think it's also possible that people have just kind of adjusted the way they schedule showings a little bit. Again, all of this stuff is temporary, but these are all probably contributing to the drop in showings. So that's kind of the demand side of things. Let's look at supply. So how many homes are coming onto the market every single day? Again, we're doing that 7-day trailing average, and we're seeing actually the new listings peaked at about actually the peak was a little earlier for those. That was towards the beginning of the month. On the 6th, we saw new listings peak at around 215 new listings per day. That's down to 108 as of yesterday. So that's a 50% decrease. So that's interesting, actually. People were worried about the effect that this could all have on home prices. And we talked a little bit about that last week and how it's probably not as likely to affect home prices quite as much as it is just temporarily the amount of homes that sell. But this is interesting. This is another interesting thing to look at here, because what we're seeing is contracts are down by 35%, but new listings are down by 50%. So there's actually a bigger decrease in the amount of new homes hitting the market than there is in the number of homes going under contract. So actually we're seeing the supply side of the equation lower a little bit faster. And again, this is all a flexible and moving situation, but it's actually possible that the market kind of keeps itself in equilibrium here, and that we don't see prices drop a little bit, or maybe that it kind of remains a seller's market like it always is in the spring. So that'll be interesting to see. Bottom line, activity overall is down quite a bit. Both supply and demand have decreased, but they're kind of both decreasing at the same rate. So it's possible that if you're a buyer or a seller, not a ton has changed for you in terms of the competitive landscape. That said, there have definitely been some changes to the way things happen. First of all, right after, and we kind of already knew it was going to happen when I made our video last week, but right after that video, the governor came on and announced that a stay-in-place order, shelter in your home order, was being announced for the state of Illinois. So that did come out, and as part of that legislation, there were a bunch of activities and jobs that were exempted, like essential infrastructure, real estate services, along with attorneys and accounting. Real estate services were exempted from the stay-at-home order. So the reason for that is, we've got people who are already moving, like they don't have a place to live, and if they can't get a new place to live, they're obviously going to have a major problem. Additionally, despite all of this, real estate is really tied to the economy, and I think they're just trying to keep that going. It's kind of up there with banks and stuff that you need to keep open. That said, as I've been talking about, everyone's being exceptionally careful. We're doing video showings first. We're doing 3D renderings of properties. We're making sure every buyer is pre-approved before anyone even thinks about setting foot in the house. And from there, obviously we're taking a lot of precautions. We're using lock boxes. We're trying to get as few people in that home as possible. Lots of Clorox, and just being as careful as we can while not, using more supplies, not using the supplies that are really important for people on kind of the front line of this thing. So we're doing both. But the important news here is if you are under contract on a home already, your lender is still going to be able to get the mortgage done for the buyer. If you're trying to sell your home, your buyer is going to be able to come through with that mortgage. Appraisers can still do their thing. Inspectors can still inspect. Photographers can take photographs. So basically, the mechanisms that fuel the housing market or the purchase and sale of homes are all still continuing. Again, that hasn't, and that's as of last Friday, and we haven't seen any changes today yet. Again, it could always still change, but I've kind of noticed that the pace of these announcements is slowing down a little bit. We had the lakefront and some of the parks and trails closed yesterday in Chicago, but it doesn't seem like, that just sort of seemed like a tightening up of something that was already in place. So in terms of whether transactions can still happen, we're in good shape there. The other thing we were really looking at is, just the overall economy. And 3 million unemployed in a week. That's a record. They're saying it could increase to $14 million, 14 million people who are unemployed. The good news is that the government is apparently just going to pay everyone to not work for a little bit. So we're going to have to see how that pans out. Basically, the economy was trucking along just fine, and it has been artificially stopped. If the government can kind of cryogenically freeze it in place until this all blows over, then we could see the damage could be moderated, and the recovery could actually be fairly robust, to use the Fed's word. Another thought that was floated out there earlier, and again, we're still making sense of all of this, but a lot of people have been talking about a recession for a while, and is there going to be some kind of bubble that pops? It's possible that this event has kind of accelerated that, but caused the government to step in a way that ultimately makes it less painful than it could have been. The bottom line is this government stimulus package is keeping people at work, and it's all about how effective is the stay-at-home order. So please, guys, stay at home, wash your hands. We need to make sure that we make it count this time around so that we don't have to do it again. Is the short answer. So once again, we're taking every precaution around here. We're really limiting human interaction. I'm here at Center Coast Realty. I'm the only one here. Everyone else is at home. This is actually the safest place for me to be, since I don't have to take public transit to get here. So we're being careful. We ask everyone else to do the same. If you do want to talk about your home buying plans or your home selling plans, we're available. Reach out to us. Every situation, as always, is different. So we can talk about how all the changes in the current climate are affecting you, what your plans are. We can put something in place. Again, check out, if you're just watching this video, go to our website, look at our blog. It's got a ton more detail on this situation if you want it on there. And again, happy to talk about what it all means for you. So that's it for today. Hang in there. Stay safe. We'll see y'all again soon.